Hello, welcome to part 6, functions as values. So today we are going to look at that, how a function in JavaScript is a value, like a number or a string, which means you can store it in a variable, hand it to something else, and let another piece of code decide when to run it. So let's go. Let's dive right into an example. So last video we saw how function brew a cup. So this is from last video. This is normal function declaring brew, and then we run it, we call it, save, here we go, brewing a cup. All right, so now what's the difference? How do we store a function like this one, like this code, to a variable? So the syntax is like this. We need to do function, and then this is a function with no name, a function with no name. So then we assign this nameless function to a variable we named brew, and then to call it we do the same, brew, and we get the same result. So this is important. This function declaring and ending it in the block of code is assigning the function itself to the brew, not running it and assigning the return value to brew. Like if the function returned return hello, right now save does the same thing. If we were to run it uncut, brew is not a function here, brewing a cup, and then we console there, we run it, this runs the function and assigns the return value to brew. And that's why when we console log brew displays the hello which was assigned to it. So I don't know if that was necessary. Was it too mumbo jumbo? Brew, all right, just brewing a cup. So declaring the function an anonymous function because it has no name, and assigning it to the variable brew. All right, let's move on to now arrow functions. So an arrow function is the same thing as this, but syntax shortcut. Instead of writing function, we do this. And this is exactly the same thing. We are assigning a nameless function that takes no parameters, this nameless function with no parameters, to this variable, and here we are running it. I forgot to delete the return value. So when these arrow functions, when the return value is just a single line of code, we can even drop the whole curly braces. Like this. And it's the same thing. Bring a cup. And it's the same answer. It's the same thing. It's assigning a function that takes no parameters. And this is the block. But because it is only one line, we can just omit the curly braces. So let's do another example. So let's const brew one, and then we are assigning a nameless function, and we're gonna take name as a parameter, and then arrow function, and then we are gonna do the brackets. Console.log brewing save, nothing exploded, cool. And then we call it brew one with latte. How about that? Save. There we go, brewing a latte. One more example. We did last video. Equal. And let's do quantity. And then arrow. My little block of code. And then return price times quantity, and then we call it what the console.log let's total with 4.5 and 2 coffee. Save. There we go. Output's 9. And when the return value, when the whole function is just one return value, we can again do shortcut syntax. We even ditch the return, ditch the curly braces, and do it like this with this syntax. If we run it, let's run it now with a 3 to get a different output. Save. And there we go. Let me just check one thing. Const hello is equal to, oops, arrow function console.log hello world. And now when I run the hello in the console.log, and then here run the hello, what will happen? We will print something else, no? The return value of the console.log. Control S. Yes, undefined. We see an undefined, right? So why? So if we omit, we do a one-liner like this, the return value of this console log will be returned. So when we console log running the hello, we console log out the return value. So does this make sense? I don't know. If I just call it hello, we just see the hello world because it's just calling it. So it executes the console log, and we do not print the return value like const my return is equal to running hello, and then we console log my return. So this will print the undefined. So we will see another undefined here, no? Here. This undefined corresponds to this consoling log of my return. So did I just make this all more confusing, or did I clarify something? I don't know. Tell me. All right. So let me just delete all these. Let's just delete all these and keep this one. The one that returns, the one-liner returns this. So $12. All right, but what if then so if it is not a one-liner and we go like this, returns undefined. So if I do the curly braces and make it a block of code, then this gets run, but it doesn't get returned. And this is, I bet this is running, but it's just running and never. There, I console logged it. So this is running, but does not return anything. So that's why undefined. So if we do curly braces, we must return. Like this. So it returns 12. So this console log prints the 12. So clearer or not clearer? So why all these passing functions as a value to a variable? So let me do an example of what I guess is why, so we can pass it around. All right. So function serve string action, and then console.log serving plus drink action. All right. All right. Let's continue. Serve and then we are gonna pass a nameless function directly to the serve function. Does this make sense? Okay, let me save. Here, serving lattice, say thank you. So what's going on? So here's what's going on. This main function, we declared it in the old-fashioned way or in the regular function with the name serve, takes two parameters, drink and action. And as we can see, drink is used as a string and action is a function because it gets called with this parenthesis inside this serve function. So this function we call action here will be called here with this parenthesis. So then we call serve the serve function and we input latte as one parameter and the other parameter we input a function and we directly typed it in here, nameless. And this has a name. It's called a callback. A function passed into another function like this is what is called a callback function. So let me const my function is equal to this. And then here we pass the function. We do not call it in here. We do not do this. We just put here the name of the function. So we pass in the function itself, which is what this function takes in. Save, and here it's the same output. So even more so, my function, my callback function, and then here my callback function. So this is what I'm talking about when I say that these are what it called a callback function. So this function is called a callback because it's going to be used as an input or as a parameter of another function. Does this make sense? So what do you think of this? Weirdly weird. Let me do a real use example of when they are used a lot, for example. And for this, we are gonna use an array. Latte, Americano, and haha. So arrays have built-in methods or functions that take in a callback function. So this drinks dot for each here the definition method array string dot for each and then callback fn function. So it takes in a callback function. So for each, and then here it will take my callback function. So we need to define it. My callback is gonna be, what is it gonna be? This is the parameter. Let me put it in parentheses. So it looks more natural, or for me at least. And then we're gonna do arrow. And then what are we gonna do with each drink? Let's just console.log making a all right, moment of truth. Control S. There we go. Making a latte, making an Americano, making a house blend. So what is going on here? And here's the magic. This forEach performs a specified action for each element in an array. So this is the fancy thing of instead of doing a for loop for each or for I and etc. and going through the items of an array, this for it's just syntax, different ways to write the same thing. For each goes to each value inside the array and passes it into the parameter of the callback function. So puts it here and runs this block of code. So does doing things like this make any sense? I don't know, but JavaScript, this is done a lot. A lot of things take in callback functions. And a lot of times I like declaring it like this and then calling it like this. Let me just do an experiment. What happens if I named it after? Save. Here, uncut reference. Cannot access my callback before. I am calling it here. And it's declared after. So it runs from top to bottom, right? So we gotta be careful. We need to declare all these at the very top. And another way of doing this is passing the function directly inside. I just find this syntax ugly, but this is done way too much. Passing the function right inside here. Save, and here does the same thing. So just to wrap up, we saw here a function is a value, not a special exception. It can be stored in a variable. Arrow functions are just a shorter way to write a function. And the genuinely useful consequence is a function can be handed to another function as an argument, called a callback. All right, so that will be it for this video. Hope it was not too confusing. For me, it is a little. So anyways, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.